Hey guys, this is Kevin from the Del Novas, and this is my rig rundown. I'm going to start with the amplifier and then work back to the pedals and guitars and stuff like that. So this is what I would call my A rig. If it's a bigger stage, bigger venue, I'll bring the Mark V, and under it is the 212 TQ cab. It's called the TQ because it's 3/4 closed back. So if you look at the back here, there's a bunch of wires, but yeah, it's mostly closed, but there's a port on the bottom, and it's 1/4 open at the top. So hence the name 3/4. It's not made anymore, but it's a great sounding cab, and it's nice for this style of music because you kind of get the best of both worlds, closed back and open back. You get a little bit of each. So again, like I said, this is the Mesa Mark V. And on top, got two units. First one is the Cab Clone IR Plus. Live, I use this for attenuation. I can run the amp a little bit louder to get some of the power section clip, but attenuate it so it's not too loud on stage. The other cool thing about this is you can also use it as a direct box. There's 16 IRs that come with the unit. You can add your own, replacing any of the ones that you want to replace with any IRs that you want to purchase. But with this live, one, I can attenuate the volume on stage, and then I can also give the sound engineer a direct line that I know is going to be consistent. Sometimes micing's better, sometimes it's not, depending on the engineer, but with the direct out of the IR Plus, you know, I know how I've got set. I know what I'm giving to the mixer. So as long as nothing happens between that and the front of house speakers, then I know what I'm going to get. The other unit, MIDI Matrix Plus, I'm sorry, the MIDI Matrix. This allows me to interface or control the amp with the MIDI pedal. I use the Soulman MIDI foot controller made by Source Audio, and I've got a bunch of Source Audio stuff on my pedal board that I'll talk about in a minute. But as I click through the different settings on the pedal board, you can see that the lights are changing on the MIDI Matrix, and that's also changing channels on the amp. So that's that deal. Let me spin the camera around, and I will talk about what's on the pedal board. Okay, so for the pedal board, this is a Temple Audio pedal board. And what I wanted to show you first is when the signal comes in, it hits this curling buffer first. I've attached that underneath because it doesn't do anything. It never, there's nothing to change on it. So I just stow that underneath, and then it's powered by two pedal power units. Okay, so the way the signal path runs is guitar plugs in, it hits the buffer first that I showed you, then goes into tuner. From there, hits the LA Lady distortion pedal, and then the Vertigo tremolo, which all these Source Audio pedals do more than one function. And you can check that on the Source Audio website. They have great demos for all the pedals. But what's cool about them is that you can choose the sound you want, program it via a MIDI program change, and then that's the sound you get. So for the Vertigo, for instance, I use two sounds out of that. One is a Leslie type sound, and then I use standard tremolo sounds too. So you can get multiple sounds out of one pedal. Okay, next in the signal path is the signal going back to the amp. So we talked about the guitar coming in here, going through the various buffer and the pedals. Then this very first cable goes back to the input of the amplifier. So that one ends up right back here. So that goes into the front end of the amp. The next cable here in the middle, this is coming from the effects send of the amp. So now we're getting into the effects loop. So the effects send brings the signal back to the pedal board, and it's going to go through all the time-based effects. So it's going to hit the volume pedal first, and then chorus, then delay, then reverb, and then from there it'll hit this third chord right here. This is the effects return, so this will go back to the effects loop of return on the amp. And that is it for that. I'll set the camera down, do a couple of sound samples, and then I guess that'll be it. Okay, so I'm going to run through just the standard sounds that I use in the band, and you'll be able to hear what I was talking about in the last clip. This is just my standard clean sound. Right now it's just a channel 1 on the amplifier, and then the only other effect that's on right now is just a reverb, the Ventress reverb. The other sound I use when I'm just clean is at the beginning of Can't Be a Surf. For that I'll use the vertigo pedal, but it's set to the Leslie sound I was talking about. Okay, from there I have the first sound on the pedal is just a clean boost. So going from to, and what's cool about this pedal is you actually have 2 sounds for each button. So when the light's on, it's whatever the preset is. When it's off, the way that I have it configured is it always goes back to the standard clean sound. So whatever I'm doing in any of the effects, whenever I turn the button off, it just goes back to my standard clean rhythm sound. So the second position is just this is kind of a low gain, more crunchy kind of sound. I use that when we play a lot of our harmony stuff, so it's kind of blends really well with Dallas guitar. Next one over, this is my basic lead tone. A little bit of delay, a little bit of reverb. Channel 3 on the amp. And then last button is the vertigo pedal again, but now it's as a tremolo. Again, even within this, there's a bunch of different tremolo sounds. This is just kind of their standard that I use. A song called Santa Cruz to Aptos. So that's about it for the quick overview of the pedal board. I'll talk about the guitars for just a minute. Okay, these are my 2 main guitars that I use with the band. On the right is Tom Anderson Icon. That one is it's an alder body. I'm actually using DiMarzio single coil, stacked humbucking single coils in that one. So they're packaged like a single, but it's actually a stacked humbucker. That's the guitar I was just playing, so they sound like regular single coils the way that they've designed them. So this one has some interesting wiring in it. I'll actually set the camera down, and I'll just kind of run through those real quick. So it's got your standard 5 strat sounds, neck. But then on the tone knob for the bridge, it's a push-push, so I can turn the bridge on anytime I want. So for instance, the first tune I played when this started was one of our tunes called Bikinis on the Beach. So I'm using the neck and bridge for that. And then the other cool thing about this on the middle tone knob, the one for the neck and the middle pickup, that's got another push-pull control on it. And when it's in, it's off. When you engage it, it's a mid boost, which is great on lead tones. So if I'm doing a solo sound, the bridge pickup. Turn it on. It's just that little bit extra, kind of meaty sound to the pickup. So this is off. The other guitar is also a Tom Anderson. This is it's an older model. This is what they call the Hollow Classic. There's chambers on either side of the pickups that's hollow. No F-holes, but the body's hollow in those places, and it gives it more of just a live, almost acoustic-y kind of sound. But it's I'll play a little bit, and you can hear the difference. Nothing really special about that. These are Anderson pickups, stacked humbuckers again. This one has it's a master splitter, so with that switch in that position, the pickups are all just standard single coils, and you'll hear a little bit of buzz, but it gets more of a traditional single coil sound. With the switch in that position, they're stacked humbuckers, so the sound is a little bit darker, a little more compressed. So let me set the camera down and you can have a listen to a couple sounds of that. Again, just a standard 5-position strat sounds. I've got the switch set to the split setting, so these are all basically just like standard single coil pickups. And then, so again, with higher gain sounds, you get more buzz. So normally what I'll do is switch it over to the humbucking mode. Buzz goes away. So that's about it. That's the rig and the main guitars that I use.